Ladies, gentlemen, and realm hoppers of all ages, Lords of the Fallen is coming out in just a few days, and the floodgates have been opened for information on the game, at least up to a certain point. So before you get your tiny little hands on it,
I find your small hands attractive.
There are 10 things that you should probably know about before you dive in and begin your own journey within this lovely new Souls-like from Hexworks. So let's dive right on in and make sure that you're ready for what's to come in Lords of the Fallen. Number 1 is going to be the two worlds within this game. Axiom is the world of the living, where your main adventure will be taking place. Umbral is the world of the dead, made to look a lot more creepy and evil looking quite on purpose. When you die in Axiom, you are sent to Umbral to get a second chance at whatever you were just fighting. If you succeed, you can get your way back into Axiom. Otherwise, if you die while in Umbral, you instead go back to your most recent vestige, which is this game's equivalent of a bonfire. You can also use the Umbral lamp in Axiom to view differences in terrain between the two realms, and sometimes secret paths will only be accessible by manually switching realms, which you can do using the lamp as well. That said, the longer you stay in the Umbral realm, the harder it will get to survive there. Enemy aggro range steadily increases the longer you're in there, so you'll have just more and more enemies wandering towards you trying to overwhelm you. And it's also worth noting that at least some specific enemies or bosses have different movesets in the Umbral realm compared to the same enemy in Axiom, so there is quite a lot going on with the whole two worlds and realms thing that will hide a lot of secrets or even advantages that you may miss out on otherwise, so coming to grips with this early is definitely important. Secondly, I just wanted to make a quick stop on character creation. There are 10 classes in-game on launch of various kinds, one for each of the magic styles in the game, which we'll talk about in a moment, various melee focuses like a sword and a shield, flail and crossbow, which is actually my personal favorite concept, javelins that you can both use as a longer range melee weapon or as a throwing weapon, which is actually pretty cool as well, and then just your more standard dex or strength type focuses. For the actual customization of your character visually, it seems pretty damn in-depth, honestly. You can go pretty hard on making yourself look exactly how you want to, however, it doesn't quite get to the level of sliders for individual body parts from what I've seen, which is of course quite sad. Third up, a sort of continuation of the last one actually, but one of these starting classes is actually locked behind the deluxe edition of the game. I'm not really a fan of this concept at all, and while I should add on that this class is unlockable through gameplay further into the game, getting it immediately at the start of the game is entirely locked behind this paywall, and I really don't like that kind of payment exclusive. Visuals, aesthetics, yeah, sure, whatever, it's not a big deal if it's just cosmetics, but the second you start putting actual major gameplay affecting things into paywalls, I start to take a pretty big issue. So be aware that this is where the 10th class is hidden, and while it doesn't disqualify the game from being enjoyable in the first place, it's definitely a point of criticism worth making. Fourth then is just simply that a lot of the general combat mechanics in this game will feel very familiar to fans of Souls games and Souls-likes. The general melee combat flows very similarly, you can block, you can parry, in fact pretty much every boss can be parried, which is important to note. You have a dodge roll with iframes, there's magic you can use as well, and there's even an important mechanic called wither health, which is where part of your health bar will turn gray and you can heal it back up by dealing damage to enemies quickly, but it will be lost completely if you get hit first. Wither damage is built up by blocking and parrying, so it will feel familiar to Bloodborne players, and especially anyone who recently played Lies of P, the game that just came out, but you can also build up withered health by using the Umbral Lamp too. Fifth up, let's talk about the various schools of magic within the game. For the most part, there are 3 of them meant to be used by the player. Rogar is the name for fire magic, pyromancy especially, which is pretty much exclusively offense-based magic. Radiant is, well, radiant magic of course, your holy light, your lightning bolts, and it is a lot more mixed, having some healing, some buffs, but also damage options too, just of course far less offensive variety than fire magic has. Then the third type is actually Umbral. 2 of the main stats in the game are dedicated to your magic effectiveness. There is one for fire specifically and one for radiant specifically, but Umbral is actually scaled on a mixture of those 2 stats together. Umbral magic is devastatingly hard hitting, but with big cast times on spells, and can even apply darkness buffs to your weapon. That said, while these are the main 3 types of magic available to the player, there will be opportunities to learn things that link to other elements like frost or poison even, or other concepts of magic, because a cool thing about this game is that any spell that you ever see used by an enemy is actually also obtainable for the player in some manner at least, either as a guaranteed drop or as an RNG chance from the enemy that is using it. 6th, let's talk about Soulflay, which is a really big deal mechanic. You gain Soulflay charges easiest when in the Umbral world by siphoning things called Umbral blisters, and then you can use them either to rip the souls out of your enemies, giving you the ability to apply wither damage to their soul itself, which when it returns to the enemy will apply a ton of gray health to them, with the same rules applying to them as it does for you. If they hit you, they will start to recover slowly. If you hit them though, they lose all of it instantly. On top of this, there are ways that you can interact with Soulflay while exploring, so there is always a reason to have some charges hanging around if you can. 7th, we have something also related to Soulflay, but important enough enough that it definitely needed its own section. Bosses in this game will not immediately drop you their favorite weapons or armor, nor will they drop a boss soul type equivalent you instantly pick up. Instead, you have to use Soulflay on the dead boss, which will give you an item that you can spend on either a special weapon or a special spell, so remember to always Soulflay dead bosses or else you'll just be missing out on the rewards entirely. Eighth up is the co-op within this game. Unlike the actual Soulsborne series, this game has rather seamless two-player co-op, where a second player can just join in on the host no problem, progress with them through levels, into bosses, and further on, get loot as well. The only thing is, because it only uses the host world state, it does make it hard to progress for both players, but you get most everything else. On top of that, there is even cross-platform co-op for the game too, but is even more limiting as the secondary player can't even get loot if you are doing it cross-platform. That said, as far as gameplay, this is the pretty high up there amongst the smoothest co-op experiences you can get in a Souls-like game, so if you have a friend and want to see what it's like together, you should give it a go. Ninth is the other side of multiplayer, which is PvP. This functions a lot like Souls as well. There are random invasions that can happen at various points in the game, and there are even PvP designated areas within the game for those who are particularly bloodthirsty. These mechanics will feel very familiar to Souls players as well. I mean, it seems like the devs are not shy at all about being called a Souls-like and have instead embraced that concept. Finally then, number 10, there is in fact New Game Plus mode within this game, and it is a bit more brutal than you might even imagine compared to most similar games. Throughout your first playthrough, you will find your bonfire equivalents, which are called vestiges. Ancient vestiges are pre-placed and activated ones by the devs that are all over the map, which you can find and use as a respawn point to level up. All of those important activities that you would get to do here. But interestingly, there are also vestige seeds that you can find throughout your journey, which will let you create new bonfires in specific locations in less set spots. When it comes to New Game Plus, there will instead only be one ancient vestige right near the start, meaning that even past increasing the difficulty of the enemies, of course, one of the biggest enhanced difficulties of New Game Plus in this game is that you are in full control of creating your own checkpoints, but you also have a limited number that you can even make, so you have to choose wisely and actually ration your bonfires, in a sense. All in all, Lords of the Fallen is looking to be one of the best Souls-likes that we've had in a long time, hopefully on a similar rung to the recent Lies of P, which also did an excellent job within this genre. We'll see how the two compare, but hopefully we come away from this just getting to enjoy the fact that we had two incredible Souls-like games 1 month after the other back to back. I hope you've enjoyed this video then, and I hope these tips help you out when it comes time for you to actually play the game for yourself. Check out the channel for more Lords of the Fallen content over the coming days, and let us know if there's anything that you want us to talk about in particular. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.